Captain America has become one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. He wasn't always. I didn't have a whole lot of respect for him when I was younger, but I have grown to appreciate him a lot more in recent years. For a character that started out as little more than wartime propaganda, it's quite impressive to see how far he's come, how much his stories have evolved throughout the decades, how much Steve Rogers has grown as a person in his over 80-year history in comics. Back in 1941, when Captain America first hit the scene, there was a real-life war raging in Europe. What was deemed good and evil within society was a lot more black and white than it is now, at least in many respects, because the enemies Captain America would do battle with were, for all intents and purposes, from a faraway land. In the decades that followed, his stories would pivot direction, focusing more attention on the political corruption, greed, manipulation, and instances of domestic terrorism, all happening within his very own backyard. Though Steve Rogers wears a costume imbued with the colors of America and symbolizes the freedoms and ideals the country is supposed to represent, he became fully aware of the flaws poisoning his nation at its core, and more specifically, within its governing bodies. It grew increasingly more difficult for him to stand by his government, his leaders, to the point in which he would relinquish the title of Captain America within the 1987 storyline Captain America No More, which ran between issues 332 to 350 of Captain America Volume 1. It was written by the legendary Mark Gruenwald, with art by Tom Morgan and Kieran Dwyer. It's one of my personal favorites, featuring Captain America, that has everything you want in a Captain America story. Heavy political themes, intense visuals, heart-wrenching tragedy. I'm really excited to review it for you all today. So how in the world did this happen? How could it happen? How could a hero with seemingly endless perseverance like Steve Rogers give up being Captain America? Well, at the beginning of the storyline, Cap is summoned to the Pentagon in front of the federal government's recently appointed Commission on Superhuman Activities, whose purpose is to act on superhuman affairs as they pertain to the safety and security of the United States and its people. In an incredibly dick move, the Commission makes it clear to Rogers that his uniform, shield, and the title of Captain America are the sole property of the U.S. government. They command him to become the official entity, loyal soldier, and mascot of the nation once more, just like he was during wartime in the 1940s, before he had been frozen, unthawed, and turned into an honorary member of the Avengers. Rogers views this order as a slap in the face, and rightfully so, a defamation of the symbol he had spent several decades building up. He believes Captain America should represent the citizens of the nation, and not the political agendas of its government, to ensure that his ideals are not compromised and his personal freedoms are not trampled on. In an act of defiance, he surrenders his Captain America uniform and shield. The Commission threatens Rogers on his way out, stating that if he will no longer be Captain America, they will just have to find someone else who will. Enter U.S. Army veteran John Walker, a paid customer of Power Broker Incorporated, who went through their various chemical experiments to obtain superhuman levels of strength and stamina. He would quickly become the heroic vigilante known as Super Patriot, who publicly discredited Captain America, claiming himself to be the one true freedom fighter. He would cross paths with Steve Rogers, with their initial battle ending in a stalemate. After displaying his ability to stop a terrorist attack at the Washington Monument, Walker would be brought in by the Commission to become the next Captain America, following the original one's retirement. Walker's friend Lamar Hoskins, who played the role of one of the bold urban commandos, a group of men that would stage attacks at the Super Patriots rallies to make him look good in front of the people, would become the new Bucky, Captain America's sidekick. though Lemur would eventually convince the Commission to change his name to Battlestar, since the name Bucky was offensive, Buck being a derogatory term for a black man. Yikes. Walker and Hoskins would spend the next several months settling into their new roles as Captain America and Bucky, later Battlestar. Both being recent customers of the power broker, they each possessed newfound strength they had to master, as well as honing their teamwork when fighting the bad guys. Walker is forced to study archive footage of Steve Rogers' fighting techniques by the Commission in order to adapt them as his own, not to mention learn the difficult skill of shield throwing, able to catch it after ricocheting it off several targets first, which takes quite a while for Walker to nail down in training. John Walker is sort of a hothead though, easily angered, and as the pressure of living up to the legend of Steve Rogers begins to push down on him more and more, he becomes frustrated and paranoid. Walker is determined to surpass the original Captain America by any means necessary, but as the story progresses, you get a sense of his personality, his deep-rooted ideologies, which are vastly different from those of Steve Rogers, making him unfit for the role of Captain America, something quite obvious from the onset. One of the earliest missions Walker is sent on is to infiltrate a nationwide group of arsonists and murderers called the Watchdogs that attack and destroy things they believe go against the just morals of America. Things like pornography, sex education, abortion, and the theory of evolution, just to name a few. Though Walker is sent to stop them from within, he finds himself agreeing with many of the Watchdogs' ideologies, which is odd. It makes his beliefs as a whole very inconsistent, because you can't be all for some freedoms and against others. It doesn't make any sense. You can't cherry-pick the freedoms you want for yourself and then cut people off from the rest of them. That's not freedom. That's not choice. It's just another form of control. As Walker infiltrates the Watchdogs in a small town in Georgia he grew up in named Custer's Grove, the Watchdog shitheads find Lemur and intend to hang him, which is fucked. Add racism to their laundry list of irredeemable qualities. You'd think Walker would save his friend and prevent a hate crime, but instead would much rather maintain his cover and not fail his mission. He does return in his Captain America gear 30 minutes later, mind you, and Lemur is able to survive being hung thanks to his superhuman strength in his neck. But by then, it's really hard to get behind John Walker as a hero. His beliefs are just far too inconsistent to be an effective Captain America, and rather than admit to the faults and weaknesses within his own morality, he just blames the Commission, claiming they had put him up to it all, had agents somehow infiltrate the Watchdogs to test him. It's disgusting seeing how delusional and paranoid he had become. At a public ceremony debuting the new Captain America and his partner Battlestar, Walker's secret identity would be revealed to the public by two costumed villains, Left-Winger and Right-Winger, two of Walker's former army pals, named Hector Lennox and Jerome Johnston. Not only does that complicate Walker's situation, but he and Battlestar get into hot water with the Commission when they begin to question their authority. They send the new Captain America and Battlestar to arrest superpowered individuals, which Lemur feels is just another way for the government to oppress minorities. They constantly fail missions, taking too many risks, letting their enemies get away, or causing the deaths of important targets in some instances. They feel like puppets of the government, being shipped off in every direction. It's ironic, too, seeing as the Commission had been upset that the original Captain America refused to take orders, and now their replacement one is becoming even more extreme in that regard. Ever since giving up the mantle of Captain America, Steve Rogers has been drifting across the nation in his red battle van, feeling lost and alienated by his own country, and trying his best to get in touch with the American people once again. The government had imposed sanctions preventing him from wearing any uniform with red, white, and blue on it. They also forced the Avengers to kick him off the team, or else they would no longer be allowed to operate on US soil. Fucking assholes. Of course, Rogers would find an obvious loophole, remaining a superhero but assuming a new identity, simply the Captain, with an altered costume using a black and red color scheme as opposed to a red, white, and blue one. Honestly, I love this costume that would later be incorporated into the US agent character, just as much as I enjoy the original suit. I get that the colors are less American, but it just looks so badass and cool, and I think it works, seeing as it's meant to represent a darker and shadier version of his form of heroism, working outside of the law now. Steve Rogers would go to his close friend and former fellow Avengers member Tony Stark to have a new shield made for him out of adamantium. Tony would give it to him free of charge, acting as a form of bribe, in the hopes that Rogers would back off, allowing Stark to infiltrate the maximum security prison known as the Vault, to neutralize some of his Iron Man technology that had been sold to the US government by his business rival Justin Hammer, the armor being worn by the Vault security force known as the Guardsmen. Iron Man would destroy all of his armors at the Vault, but would find himself in a little bit of a civil war decades before the actual one happened, because Rogers felt that the Guardsmen were vital for American national security. He fights Iron Man because he not only broke the law, infiltrating the Vault, but for his unethical way of stopping the Guardsmen, exhausting their air supplies, and nearly killing a couple of them in his crusade. Rogers is defeated at the Vault, but would later return to the offices of Tony Stark to give him back the adamantium shield, soured at the thought of keeping it, not just because Stark betrayed his trust, but also because Iron Man's attack on the Vault compromised its power and caused several dangerous supervillains to escape. But you know what? Fuck Iron Man though, because Black Panther comes to the rescue and provides Rogers with an even better shield made of vibranium. You can argue which substance is stronger in the Marvel Universe, adamantium or vibranium, it doesn't matter. Both are fictional, so who cares? But at least this one isn't tainted by lies. Lies, I tell you. The vibranium shield is even energy absorbing, so it allows Rogers to fall great distances and land without breaking his legs, so that's a plus. Thanks T'Challa, you're the best. During the events of Captain America No More, Steve Rogers teams up with several of his allies, Sam Wilson, the Falcon, Dennis Dunphy, Demolition Man, who I like to call Jackass Monroe, the Third Nomad, and even Rachel Layton, Diamondback. They go up against the Deadly Viper, who had recently taken over the Serpent Society, a team of snake-themed supervillains. Viper would have her lackeys poison the water supply in Washington, D.C., with a special mutagenic chemical which turned everyone who drank it into human-snake hybrids, including the president at the time, Ronald Reagan. Rogers would infiltrate the White House, seeing the carnage left in Viper's wake, and has a moment to reflect on himself, what kind of a symbol he had been, and has become, the kind of symbol the White House represents, one even greater than Captain America ever was, and realizing that the president, a powerful American figure, had been weakened and withered away by Viper, in much of the same way he was by the Commission. This whole section of the story ends with a battle between the captain and a mutated President Reagan in the Oval Office. It's really a sight to behold, completely ludicrous in concept, but somehow still awesome at the same time. Thankfully, Rogers manages to save the president by exerting enough of his energy, allowing him to sweat the toxin out. Following the fiasco in Washington, John Walker is sent after Steve Rogers, who the Commission claims has not only been working alongside Viper, but broke into the White House and assaulted the president deliberately. In the wake of the attack, Rogers has become a fugitive, with a target on his back. The Commission even tries to lure him out of hiding by arresting several of his teammates. Nomad, Demolition Man, and Diamondback. It all boils down to the Commission just wanting to regain control over Rogers. They are still sour over his disobedience and honestly feel threatened by him, knowing that their replacement is nothing more than a cheap imitation of the original. Issue number 345 is a huge turning point in this storyline, and probably my favorite comic of the bunch. It depicts a surrender from both versions of Captain America, who are risking their lives for ones they care about. Steve Rogers surrenders willingly to the Commission in the hopes of freeing his partners, whereas John Walker is forced to surrender against his will in order to save the lives of his parents. Because after his identity had been revealed on live TV during his debut ceremony, John Walker had been targeted by the Watchdogs, who sought revenge against the new Captain America after their initial defeat against him. They go after John's parents in Custer's Grove, where he is then led to a barn where they intend to hang him. Walker breaks free of his restraints, but during the resulting battle with the Watchdogs, his parents are inadvertently killed in the crossfire. At this point, Walker's mental state completely shatters, and he violently murders all of the Watchdogs, as if he were Jason fucking Voorhees. He even goes after the left and right wingers for revealing his identity in the first place, beating them nearly to death. He ties them both up with a rope and hangs them upside down beside a leaking oil tank, allowing them the chance to free themselves with one of their small torch blades before the oil reaches the flame on the ground. Spoiler alert, they don't reach it in time, but fortunately they do manage to survive the explosion, just with severe burns over 90% of their bodies. John Walker isn't the most likable of characters. His patriotism is taken to the absolute extreme, and like I had mentioned previously in this video, his core beliefs are very inconsistent, not something you should really see in a Captain America, but the pressure put on him having to live up to the legacy of Steve Rogers, the tragic events surrounding the death of his parents. You do feel a certain level of sympathy for him. He was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. While I wouldn't consider him to be a good person, he does have good intentions at least. You can't really take that away from him. Anywho, the head of the commission, named Douglas Rockwell, decides to cover up any evidence pinning the death of the Watchdogs in Custer's Grove to the new Captain America, and John Walker is allowed to continue in his role. He does this under the orders of the Commission's mysterious superior. When Steve Rogers confronts Rockwell in his office, believing there is something uncomfortably personal about everything that has happened in his life over the past few months, Rockwell is killed by his boss with a gas Rogers had encountered in the past, called the Dust of Death, which eats away at the flesh of Rockwell's face, turning it red in color. The Commission's superior is revealed to be Johann Schmidt, the original and most iconic incarnation of the Red Skull. He had survived his last encounter with Captain America, having his mind preserved by Nazi scientist Arnim Zola and placed within a clone body of Steve Rogers. Red Skull had masterminded the commission of superhuman activities and orchestrated all of the events that led Steve Rogers into giving up his role as Captain America. He was also responsible for replacing Rogers with John Walker and the traumatic circumstances which led to Walker's mental breakdown, which in turn degraded and tarnished the symbol of Captain America, staining it with blood. The Red Skull would manipulate both Rogers and Walker into fighting each other, not just because of their differing ideologies, but because Walker, previously mistaking the Red Skull for Rogers, blames him for everything that had been taken away from him. The battle between the two Captain Americas is hard-hitting and deeply personal, with Walker behaving like a rabid dog. Steve Rogers ends up victorious and is confronted by the Red Skull, who, during his cliché and ham-fisted villain monologue, is hit in the legs by Captain America's shield, thrown by the recovering John Walker. More dust of death gas is accidentally released from his cigarette holder, disfiguring his face into a red skull once more, though he does manage to escape. The remaining members of the Commission begin to investigate the suspicious actions of Douglas Walker, as well as the mystery man who had been posing as Steve Rogers. They bring both Rogers and Walker before them, and finally come to the understanding that Rogers alone is what made the shield, uniform, and title of Captain America mean something, not the other way around. They offer the position of Captain America to Rogers once more, who initially declines the offer, but is talked into it by Walker, who no longer wants the responsibility and no longer feels himself worthy of it. Steve Rogers officially takes back the role of Captain America, realizing that he can continue to be a symbol of his country's ideals without needing to blindly follow its leaders. Captain America No More is one of my favorite Captain America storylines, quite possibly a strong contender for my number one, though I also have a soft spot for Man and Wolf due to how ridiculously epic the whole premise behind it was. Captain America No More is very similar to another storyline I recently reviewed on the channel, Batman Nightfall, because it too has a forced absence of the main hero, them being replaced by someone who is unfit for the role, and as the story progresses, has their ideology become poisoned, and of course, having the hero come back in the end to take back what's rightfully theirs. I had mentioned at the start of this video that Captain America No More has everything you'd want in a Captain America story, and it really does. An appearance from the Red Skull, posing as the mysterious superior of the Commission. I love how it blankets him in red before the big reveal, a bit of foreshadowing there. I find it really interesting we get to see a heated conflict between Captain America and Iron Man, decades before the iconic and mainstream one took place within Civil War. That's cool. And I mean, come on, Steve Rogers fighting Ronald Reagan, who had been transformed into a snake person? What more could you ask for? Something I always find compelling about Captain America comics are the political themes in them that get you thinking, questioning your own beliefs, society, and the world around you, not to mention reinforcing who Steve Rogers is at his core, and why he is such an incredible superhero. The US government feels like they own Captain America, that he would somehow not exist if not for them. They provided him the super soldier serum, the shield, and the costume, but all of those things are materialistic, superficial. What makes Captain America isn't some chunk of vibranium or piece of fabric stitched together. It's the man behind them, the heart and soul of an amazing human being, Steven Rogers. I want to thank you all for watching this review. I really hope you enjoyed it. If so, please think about subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell icon to be notified of all the future content I release on here. Let me know what you thought of Captain America No More, and what you think of Steve Rogers and John Walker in general down in the comment section below. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.